dear Jehovah's Witnesses and public general, I want to treat with all of you an interesting point that have kept me thinking a lot all these days, and is this doctrine learned in this constantly used book entitled, What Does the Bible Really Teach? That you can see in your monitors. I want to invite all of you to follow me to read pages 73 and 74, in which the Watchtower treats the issue of real hope for your loved ones who have died already. Let's check what the Watchtower have to say in this chapter about the real hope for those called the first ones, the anointed class to be resurrected after they die. It reads as follows. The heavenly resurrection. 21. The Bible also refers to another kind of resurrection, one to life as a spirit creature in heaven. Only one example of this type of resurrection is recorded in the Bible, that of Jesus Christ. 22. After Jesus was put to death as a human, Jehovah did not allow his faithful Son to remain in the grave. Psalm 16 verse 10, Acts 13 verses 34, 35. God resurrected Jesus, but not as a human. The Apostle Peter explains that Christ was put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the Spirit. 1 Peter 3 verse 18. This truly was a great miracle. Jesus was alive again as a mighty spirit person. 1 Corinthians 15 verses 3 to 6. Jesus was the first ever to receive this glorious type of resurrection. John 3 verse 13. But he would not be the last. Knowing that he would soon return to heaven, Jesus told his faithful followers that he would prepare a place for them there. John 14 verse 2. Jesus referred to those going to heaven as his little flock. These 144,000 Christians, including Jesus' faithful apostles, are raised to life in heaven. So those few remaining ones of the 144,000 who die in our day are instantly resurrected to life in heaven. So those few remaining ones of the 144,000 who die in our day are instantly resurrected to life in heaven. Are instantly resurrected to life in heaven. 1 Corinthians 15 verses 51 to 55. The vast majority of mankind, however, have the prospect of being resurrected in the future to life in paradise on earth. In summary, what this book teaches to all Bible students of today is that only the anointed Christians are resurrected in the exact way or manner as Jesus Christ did 2,000 years ago, not in the third day, but instantly after they die. As Jesus died in the flesh, anointed Christians also die in flesh, but are resurrected immediately in the Spirit, with an spiritual glorified transformed body. We must not forget that Jesus' fleshly body disappeared after being resurrected at the third day, because his fleshly body was transformed in a spiritual body, according to the teaching in this book, and nothing of his fleshly body were found on earth after his resurrection. His tomb was found totally empty by his followers after his resurrection. This point is very important, because when Jesus departed to heavens, nothing of his fleshly remains were left on earth, absolutely nothing. Following you can see the Syracuse Daily News dated January 26, 1942, in which this Daily News published an article regarding Judge Joseph Franklin Rutherford dead body still unburied and laying in San Diego mortuary after 3 weeks after his death on January 8, 1942. Let's see what it says. Rutherford's body unburied 3 weeks after his death. San Diego, California, January 26. The body of Judge Joseph Rutherford lay in a mortuary today, nearly 3 weeks after his death. Whole Jehovah's Witnesses made a final plea for permission to bury their leader in accordance with his dying wish. Rutherford, 72, died January 8, asking a simple burial at dawn the following day in the orange grove of Beth Sarim, the estate he kept ready for the resurrection on the biblical prophets. Frustrated by county health authorities and the Planning Commission, who held that the estate was not a legally zoned cemetery, the International Religious Organization carried its fight to the Board of County Supervisors. Witnesses charged that prejudice had caused authorities to refuse to waive the zoning law. My point that kept me disrupted is this: why Judge Rutherford's fleshly decomposing body was still found laying in the mortuary 3 weeks after his death if the doctrine teaches that all anointed Christians are resurrected immediately after their death, and their fleshly body is transformed in a spiritual body to be reunited with Jesus Christ on heavens? If anointed Christians run with the same identical fate of Jesus Christ's resurrection, why then Rutherford's body was found 3 weeks later resting in the mortuary, after his death, if he really was resurrected January 8th and raised with a transformed spiritual body in order to be immediately reunited on heavens with Jesus and all other anointed Christians passed away before. There shouldn't be any body in the mortuary, if Judge Rutherford really was resurrected as the firstfruits, and any remains of his fleshly body shouldn't be found on earth. Nevertheless, his fleshly body was still on earth by 18 days. This astonishing fact clearly proves two things. Or the Watchtower is a big liar and a deceiver in teaching this issue about the firstfruits, or Rutherford was rejected by Jesus and he didn't wanted him to be in heavens forming part of his body. Maybe because Rutherford do not deserve to be resurrected due to his bad behavior and false teachings during his lifetime. There are only these two possibilities. You choose which one of these two mentioned reasons could explain why Rutherford's body was still laying in San Diego, California mortuary, 3 weeks after his death on January 8, 1942. My last question is this: why all anointed Christians lately passed away, especially Ted Yarach, John Barr, received a funeral service and were buried the day after their death, if they were immediately resurrected and their bodies transformed into spiritual bodies, as happened with Jesus Christ after his resurrection, to go immediately to heavens? It is supposed not to be found any body of Yarach and Barr on earth after being immediately resurrected after their death in order to be gathered with Christ on heavens, and therefore nothing to give funeral service and burial on earth. But in fact both Yarach and Barr received funeral service and were buried. Maybe these two members of the governing body passed away were also rejected by Jesus because they were involved inside of Babylon the Great, the group of false religions. Don't you think so? Why all these men, part of the anointed class, were all buried and received funeral services, if they were really resurrected immediately with a transformed spiritual body to be gathered with Jesus Christ on heavens? Shouldn't we expect their fleshly bodies to be vanished after their immediate resurrection when they died, as did happen with Jesus 2,000 years ago? Remember that nothing of Jesus' fleshly remains were found on earth. His tomb, after his resurrection, so the same sort of fate should apply to these men as the firstfruits.
The Watchtower Society cheated on me. Hasta la vista, baby. Oops.